In the heart of East Africa, a great river is born. From the vast expanse of Lake Victoria, the White Nile begins its journey, one that will carry it over 6,600 kilometers across a continent. Here, mist rises gently from the water's surface, and the sound of lapping waves whispers the beginning of a story that has shaped history, sustained civilizations, and inspired myths for millennia. As it flows northward, the White Nile carves a path through dense wetlands and untamed jungles. In South Sudan, it becomes a sanctuary for life. Elephants and giraffes linger at its edge, and hippos wade quietly in its cool waters. The Sud, one of the largest wetlands on Earth, slows the river's pace. It is here that the Nile becomes more than a body of water. It becomes an ecosystem, pulsing with vibrant energy, giving shelter to life forms ancient and new. Far to the east, in the Ethiopian highlands, another river roars to life. The Blue Nile cascades with ferocity from Lake Tana, carving through valleys and cliffs, its waters foaming as they rush westward. This river carries rich silt, earthy and dark, that will eventually give the Nile its famed fertility. It is a force of nature both feared and revered, echoing through canyons and time. In Sudan's capital, the two rivers meet, the White Nile from the south, the Blue Nile from the east. Their confluence at Khartoum marks the true beginning of the Nile. One river, now united, flows northward with purpose, gathering power as it journeys toward the deserts of the Sahara. At this junction, two lifelines merge, as if the continent itself is offering a shared breath to the world. As the Nile winds through the ancient lands of Nubia, it becomes a quiet companion to the people who live along its banks. For centuries, the Nubians have drawn water, fished, and farmed by the river, painting their homes in bright colors and passing down stories carried on the breeze. The Nile, here, is intimate and close. It touches every moment, every ritual. It is woven into the rhythm of daily life. Thousands of years ago, before asphalt roads and cargo trucks, the Nile was Egypt's first highway. Merchants, priests, and messengers traveled its length in wooden boats, bearing spices, grains, and papyrus. From village markets to royal palaces, the river connected the living and the divine. Goods and gods moved with the current, and the Nile became not just a river, but a pathway to prosperity. In the 20th century, modern ambition met ancient flow. The Aswan High Dam rose in southern Egypt, taming the Nile's once unpredictable floods. It brought electricity and year-round irrigation, transforming agriculture and industry. But it also brought displacement and environmental change. The lake it created, Lake Nasser, drowned old villages, temples, and ecosystems. The river, once wild, was now measured, managed, and modified. Yet the river remembers. Along its banks, monumental temples rise from the earth. Testaments to gods, kings, and cosmic beliefs. Abu Simbel, Luxor, Karnak, names etched in stone and story. These ancient shrines gaze eternally upon the water, their massive statues standing as guardians of time. Here, the Nile is sacred, a divine mirror reflecting human wonder and devotion. Before the dams, the Nile followed a seasonal rhythm, rising and falling with the rains of distant lands. Each summer, the floodwaters would spread across the valley, depositing rich black silt that turned the desert into fertile farmland. The Egyptians called it Hapi, the god of inundation, and offered prayers for his arrival. These floods were not disasters, they were deliverance. In Cairo, the Nile courses through a city of 20 million souls. High-rise buildings and bridges line its shores, and feluccas, traditional wooden boats, still sail under glowing city lights. The river has witnessed dynasties rise and fall, revolutions ignite, and dreams take shape. It remains the spine of this metropolis, ancient and modern, carrying both memory and momentum. As the Nile nears its end, it becomes a mosaic of wetlands, marshes, and lagoons. In the delta, millions of birds arrive during their annual migrations, following an invisible path written in instinct. Flamingos, pelicans, storks, they all find rest in this green cradle. The river is not just a place, but a pause, a moment of refuge in the skybound odyssey of life. Here in the north, where the Nile branches into channels and creeks, its final act unfolds. The delta fans out into a quilt of farmland, dotted with villages and cities. Wheat, rice, cotton, all thrive here. It is one of the most fertile regions on Earth, nourished by millennia of sediment and sacrifice. And as the river spills into the Mediterranean, it leaves behind a kingdom sown in water. But this mighty river now faces challenges it cannot wash away alone. Pollution, climate change, and rising demand are draining its strength. Dams upstream threaten its flow. Factories, plastic waste, and untreated sewage poison its waters. The balance that sustained it for centuries is at risk. The Nile, once eternal, now pleads for preservation. Yet in the soft light of morning, life endures. A lone fisherman casts his net, repeating a motion learned from generations before. The Nile cradles his boat gently, like it has for thousands of years. The air is still, the world is quiet, and the river breathes a promise that it will always return, if we care for it. And then there are the children, laughing, playing, splashing along its shores. They do not know they are dancing in history, or that the river beneath their feet built pyramids and shaped empires. But they are the future it flows toward. In their laughter, the Nile is young again. Eternal, enduring, and alive. The Nile is not just a river. It is a storyteller, a lifeline, a witness to human glory and error. From the rains of the highlands to the salt of the sea, it flows through the very heart of Africa. Past, present, and future. It is the river of time, and time still flows.